Now, I was chopping it up with Chat GPT, and pretty much Chat GPT gather all the information just like these AIs and these robots who gather all the intel that man have acquired. So we can't say that the information is bogus, the information is false. AI gathers information through a process called training, where they're exposed to vast amounts of data from a variety of sources. Is a general breakdown. Training data. During the training phase, AI modules like mine are trained in large data sets that include text from books, websites, articles, and more. These data sets can contain billions of sentences, concepts, and facts. The goal is to teach the AI to understand patterns, relationships between words, and general knowledge about the world. Learning patterns. There's so much information here through machine learning, algorithm, the AI analysts, the pattern in language, and how concepts are connected. For example, it learns that cats and dogs are animals, but also distinguish that dogs can be pets, while cats can be pets or wild animals. Neutral networks. These are mathematical modules that are designed to mimic how human brains process information. Neutral networks help the AI understand pretty much. They know what the fudge they talking about, because all of the information that's in these books, plural, globally, these computers have it. Now, one thing you understand, we're going to talk about this Satan character, because as you would notice, states that the figure Satan, as commonly understood in latter Christian and Jewish tradition, isn't as prominent in the Old Testament Hebrew Bible. Now, this term Satan does appear in the Hebrew Bible, but it's quite different from the latter conception of Satan as a singular evil force in opposition to God. So what they're saying is, in the Bible that we have today, they have this Satan as an adversary, as in the embodiment of evil force who is in total opposition to God. So let's be understood that in the Old Testament, where was Satan? Why wasn't Satan mentioned in the Old Testament? We're not talking about Job, which is really Job. We're not talking about Job. You see, we're talking about the Old Testament. See, this word Satan was placed in the Newer Testament in one book of the Old Testament. I can't make this up. Alright, I want to bring this to context and be sure that you follow him. Okay? Now, it's pertaining to the word Satan. Listen.
Hello, welcome to my channel, The Hebrew Bible. This is Moses Gumadi, and in this video we'll talk about Satan or adversary in the Hebrew Tanakh. In the book of Numbers, chapter 22, verse 22, we read the word Satan, first time occurring in the Tanakh. In fact, this verse has been studied in our previous episode on the subject of the angel of the Lord, in particular about Balaam or Bilam and his donkey. Right, here we read that the angel of the Lord stood in the way for an adversary against him, against Bilam. Vayit yatsev malach Adonai baderech lesatan lo. So here we see the word Satan, Shin Tet Nun. Shin with, of course, a dot on the left side, which is pronounced Sin. So Satan is the word which means adversary. Now, who is the adversary? The angel of the Lord is the adversary here. And so how do we deal with this question? Now let's read the next verse. Not right next verse. Actually, if you read 10 verses below in verse 32, here the angel of the Lord said unto him, that is Balaam or Balaam, I went out to withstand thee. He says, Hinne Anochi Yatsati la Satan. I went to be an adversary to you, or I went to be an opponent to you. Le Satan. That's the word he's using. And so we need to first of all understand that this word primarily, basically means adversary, opponent, etc. And in fact, it was used for the angel of the Lord himself. And in fact, it was
in the Old Testament, Satan is typically used as a commonly understood and a latter Christian Jewish tradition isn't as prominent in the Old Testament. It does not appear in the Hebrew Bible, but is quite different from the latter. In the Old Testament, Satan is typically used as a title, meaning adversary. Now, mind you, in the Hebrew word for Satan is typically used as a title, meaning adversary, not the embodiment of evil. You see, it's just like as they're going to state as far as a lawyer or a prosecutor, the accuser rather than a name. The figure is more like a prosecuting attorney. All right. Now, Satan is typically used as a title meaning adversary or accuser rather than a name. The figure is more like a prosecuting attorney or an agent who challenges or tests people rather than an embodiment of ultimate evil. Now, mind you, if the Hebrew Torah was the first book, second Psalms, third the Quran al-Kareem, correct? Which book came first? From what is stated by man, the Torah came first, which is the Hebrew Bible. They're not lying when they're saying this, are they? I don't think so. Now, let's break down some key appearances. Now, mind you, let's go back so you understood. The figure is more like a prosecuting attorney. This is what's stipulated in the Hebrew Bible. They're not saying that Satan was present when all the many killing that was done in the Old Testament, but rather Yahweh issued out punishment. Yahweh killed nations and those who violated. Yeah, there was no Satan that was mentioned in the Old Testament. So this word Satan was implemented and placed in, which made a fabric of Christianity a product of good and evil, and this evil was ran by Satan, which is not stated in this embodiment of the Hebrew Bible. Let's continue. Now, the book of Job. I say Job because that's exactly what it is. And this is why we have to this day Satan stay on his job. You see, one of the most notable appearances of Satan in the Hebrew Bible in the book of Job, around, because we know Job is J-O-B. When you put an E on it, the O says his name. So it's not Job, it's Job. Around the 6th century BCE, where Satan acts as a member of the heavenly court, a kind of divine prosecutor or accuser. In Job 1:6-12 and chapter 2, 1 verse 1 through verse 7, Satan appears before God and challenges Job's righteousness. He suggests that Job is only righteous because God has blessed him with prosperity, and he doubts Job's devotion. Satan's role here isn't to oppose God, but to test Job's faithfulness. You see? Because y'all have to understand, for one, dirt cannot survive around bleach. That's pure. Just as darkness cannot be in the presence of light. Alright? God, but to test Job's faithfulness. In this context, I'm going to use the word that y'all familiar with. Let's say Job. In this context, Satan is more like an adversary in a legal sense, but the devil figure who would later be associated with evil and temptation. Here, Satan's purpose is more about testing the limits of human righteousness rather than acting as a force of evil. Now ask yourself, why is this adversary, which is the name for Satan, which means adversary, why wasn't that adversary used for Lot, Adam, Joseph, Jacob, Ishmael, the messengers, as was the apostles, you see, in the Old Testament? Did they forget that there was a Satan? And why did he appear in the New Testament? Because the New Testament is something that was handed down by Acts being written by Luke. It details the early church's expansion. And then we see the New Testament itself as a collection of books. Well, let's carry on. Alright. Zechariah 3:1-2. He appears again in a similar role. The presence in the Torah, the first 5 books of the Hebrew Bible, is a subject of debate. Now, in tradition, the Jewish text, that's pertaining to Lilith. We ain't gonna get into that yet. Alright, so let's understand something. Y'all was taught this, you believe this because that's what you was taught, and your ancestors was taught this. Now, the word Satan is a byproduct of Pan, which reason how is the reason why we have the embodiment of the goat with the body of a goat, and the lore have of a horse, a centaur. They switch it up at times, but it's dealing with Pan is represented as a horned man with a flute at the body of a goat. That's where you get that word Satan from. You see, which in latter times we know that it became a lot more then, and people use that to spread an evil that is governed by a name of Satan, of Satan. Now, you believe it because that's what you was taught. It's no different than when we speak about Lilith. Now, Lilith have more substance than this word Satan because Satan wasn't even around in the Old Testament. But if we go back during the Torah, or I should say was dealing with the mysticisms regarding Lilith, it has substance. Alright, let's go here. The Torah. So, Lilith isn't real in the sense of being an established central figure in the Torah, but she is certainly an important figure in some of the strands of Jewish mysticism and mythology. Now, Lilith is more strong and more pronounced than the Satan that speaks about in the Torah. Lilith is more strong as far as her substance and what she embodied than Satan in the Older Testament. This is facts, is showing. Now, let's go into some of the folklore she was interpreting. In the Torah, Lilith is not explicitly mentioned as a prominent figure. Later Jewish texts in the Talmud and the Kabbalah, Lilith appears as more developed. You're not Satan. Satan is not even mentioned in the Talmud or the Kabbalah. Lilith appears as a more developed character in folklore and mystical traditions. This is how you get King Arthur and the Round Table. But you have people to this day believe King Arthur and the Round Table, pertaining to Merlin, I should say, as being real. You argue with some of these witches and a lot of mysticism and occult believers in this Merlin here, and they will say that this Merlin is real. Okay, so Lilith isn't real in the sense of being an established central figure in the Torah, but she is certainly an important figure in some strands of Jewish specific passages in the book of Isaiah, where the term Lilith in Hebrew appears. This verse reads in part, "The wild beasts of the desert shall meet with the wild beast of the island, and the satyr shall cry to his fellow. The night monster Lilith shall also lie down there and find for herself a place of rest." Now, Lilith is more pronounced than your Satan of the Bible and the books attributed to Christianity. Now, mind you, nowhere in the book, is what the Bible means, does it mention anywhere that the word Christianity is called to be Christianity. So where did that word Christianity come from? Now, I'm saying this to say because
Jesus never said, "I'm a Christian." Not one time. He never called his disciples Christians. Did you know that? They were called Christians at Antioch by the enemies of Jesus. Prophet Muhammad never said he was Sunni. He gave us the Sunnah. He never said he was Shia, but through his daughter Fatima, he had Hussein and Hassan. Come on. He never said he was Hanafi, Sufi. That's your stuff. Be what he was. He was a Muslim.
Speaking facts.
Do you know who changed Yeshua's name to Jesus? It was Paul, who, by the way, never met Jesus. He also renamed Yeshua to Jesus. Who started the church but wasn't Jesus? Once again, it was Paul. He recast Jesus' focus on belief teachings into his own writings of obedience. Paul built churches in his own name, appointed leaders, rewrote Jesus' message to suit himself. King James came next. He translated Paul's writings into English, adapted a theological bias, creating the Bibles most Christians read today. Jesus opposed constructing temples to worship God. His word was spread in the streets, homes, and synagogues. His message was, do the will of my Father, keep the commandments, follow me. He taught obedience to God, love, and alignment. Jesus' focus was calling people to return to God. He spoke of having a direct relationship with God. No middlemen, no gatekeepers, definitely no idol on the cross.
Because we have a lot of so-called scholars in this way, and deacons and preachers and those who preach, but don't speak about these truths regarding where the word Satan really come from and its origins, you see, and how Lilith should have been mentioned more in the old book, the Old Testament, since we know the Old Testament is fragmented of the Hebrew Torah broken into the Older Testament as we have to this day, and then we have the New Testament. But she is referenced in other Jewish writings, such as the alphabet of Ben Sira, a medieval text, the Talmud, and some mystical works like the Zohar. I just want you to do a little bit more research, because when you say the word Satan and all y'all putting y'all energy into that word is not identified with the embodiment of evil. It's something that you gave power to. As we see, the name is pertaining to, or how it's written out for those who writes out the name of this angel of death, right? I said Daron. Correction. Sharon or Chiron is the ferryman. Now, y'all will consider that to be Satan. But in essence, he happened to be the one who crosses the souls over in the underworld. Charon, the ferryman of Hades. Can't make this up. Let's go there. Look, the angel of death. Now this is Greek. Alright. My Chiron or Charon. I don't like that the name is similar to my names. I remember that it was similar to my name. The reason why I was able to remember it. But as you can see, he ushered the souls in Hades. I can't make this up. Where's your Satan at? Alright. Let's get a little bit more context by ChatGPT. So, Charon or Chiron is a figure from Greek mythology who serves as the ferryman of the underworld. His role is to transport the souls of the deceased across the river, Styx, or sometimes the Archon, which separates the world of the living from the realm of the dead. The souls he ferries are typically those who have been properly buried and received the necessary rites, as it was believed that only those with a coin placed in their mouth could pay Chiron from the journey. If the soul was unable to pay, they would be left wandering. Now, before there was the Greek identification of this ferryman of the underworld, before there was Satan, there was Anubis, and there was Osiris, being the gods of the underworld, which makes sense the reason why Chiron and Charon will have his name similarities to Daron, because me being the netter connections to the underworld and having my abilities to be able to connect with the souls, to be able to line and connect from the gods through the gods. But I'm no demon, and nor is Anubis. Anubis simply means he who gives life to that which is dead, the god of the underworld, right? Why isn't Satan in this?